We're going live. We are here with my dear friend Serena, who is taking the aerial yoga play training, and she is pregnant. And this was a great inspiration to actually create a prenatal version of the training. I'm going to adjust this real quick so we have a good angle. There we go. Perfect. The joys of being live. We get to adjust everything. So we went over the basic training together, and we picked our favorite poses that we're going to learn. And it is similar to the basic training, but there are some things that we will avoid, and there are some things that we're going to emphasize. And so for today, we're really going to focus on, I'm going to put this all in the comments too, if you guys want to see it. It's going to be in the description. The top 12 easy yoga swing exercises for optimal pregnancy and labor. We're going to focus on squats mainly and forward folds using the swing for support. They really recommend cat-cow for like a bunch of different things. So cat-cow, I call it cat's meow in the swing, is so delicious and such a nice, I call them yoga translation. So it's such a nice variation on traditional poses that are on the floor, especially for the pressure on the knees and the amount of weight that the body is enduring, especially during pregnancy. We're going to go over swing bata and butterfly. This will make more sense when we get into the swing. And then there was an emphasis on hip openers and how good hip openers were for the body and that they were safe to do in all 3 trimesters, right? Yeah, so lots of hip openers, pigeon being one of them. And then we can actually get you into a supported headstand. I saw this great video where this woman was using like the side of the bed and like a step stool to try to get into a version of headstand. And it just made me laugh because the swing makes life so much easier. So we're going to try a headstand and see how it goes, and know that we're going to go into a nice long conversation about inversions and who can do inversions and when to avoid inversions, and kind of the controversy there is in general about inversions in the yoga practice. And then we're going to go down to some floor poses and focus on child's pose, which for anyone is a wonderful pose for releasing the back and getting a nice gentle stretch. So we'll be doing restorative as well as therapeutic, and then some dynamic strengthening throughout our basic training. And then we're going to do some marching and some leg lifts to strengthen the arms and legs, as well as when we get into some sumo squats. And then we'll end with some standing poses and some TRX moves. Now, these are really great for suspension training. So this is somewhere between, I think these ARX yoga swings are somewhere between aerial yoga and TRX. So I like to call them ARX yoga swings, AYRX. And so it is more of a therapeutics program than it is categorized in the healing arts. We like to keep it kind of on a chill level. So we're going to add some new things into this basic training that we haven't done before, and that is some low flying, which means we're going to bring the swings down nice and low and let the support of the swing and the ground, let the body weight be a little bit easier to work with and to enjoy the swing for people who don't like all the pressure on different parts of the body. And then, of course, the world-renowned perfect and famous pose to complete is the cocooning. And cocooning is something that can be done in any trimester, really. If you're feeling nauseous, probably cocooning wouldn't be your first choice. But it's such a wonderful pose because you can actually lay on your back, right? And it's curling the spine and really taking pressure off the lower body, particularly the SI joints, that you just can't get, when you're laying on the floor. So we're going to focus a lot on cocooning and during the restorative. But I wanted to have a conversation with you. Say hi to everybody. Hi, everybody. And welcome Serena, who is our real live brave example of my prego friend who was willing to do the videos with me. Now, is there anything in particular in your research that you wanted to share with people about concerns or recommendations, anything that in your experience of being pregnant that you would like to focus on with the swing?
Yeah, there's just some things that you want to be mindful of, especially as baby is getting bigger. So when you're doing twists of any kinds, you want to make sure that you are either twisting away from a bent leg, so you're not twisting into belly, where you're
twisting open.
Yeah, you want to always have your twist be open, and that's safe. And anything that, and also as you get bigger, your twists are going to be more focused on upper body. So more twisting from up here than twisting from the organs in the uterus. So always just being mindful of space for baby the entire time. Even if you're doing any kind of forward folding, you know, make sure your legs are, you know, wide versus having your legs together. Again, just being mindfulness of space for baby. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And,
and that's mainly because of, first of all, the relaxin that is released, and the joints are more elastic, and that's part of the body being able to make space for the baby growing. And then we want to make sure that there's no compression and squeezing of the organs, which are already kind of compressed and limited in space. And so what's going to be really interesting, and we're going to have dialogue in the training, which is a little unusual, but it's fun to have this interactive play where we can actually feel the pose. I mean, Sharina is already a masterful level embodied being in a lot of different ways, and that's why I chose her. But it's also good for even a beginner to feel like, oh, the swing is actually creating the decompression and creating the spaciousness that feels so supportive. And a lot of people would be cautious or hesitant to try something new when they're pregnant, and that I can understand. So if you already have a strong yoga practice, this would be an easy step into translating that into the swing. But if you're just not sure, as always, you have to consult your doctor and make a wise choice during your pregnancy. So if anything doesn't feel right, don't do it. And that's like the basis of our whole prenatal training, is to give people permission to really listen and feel inside. But even something with twists, because we do a lot of twists in the swing, we're not going to go nearly as far. And like Serena said, we're going to use the upper body more in initiating the twist than our lower body, which actually makes a lot of sense because there's more room and more movement in the upper body. We're also going to support our weight with our arms and our legs way more than we would in a normal swing practice. So if there's any irritation under the arms, I always recommend wearing an extra layer, an extra shirt, both for under the knees and under the armpits. That also helps with the pressure, but we can also bring the swing down low. So if you're finding that it's too much on your skin, if there's sensitivity and tenderness, especially around the breasts, just bring the swing down and let your weight be supported by the ground. And we're going to give you lots of different variations while we go through here. So I'm just going to go through the list to make sure we cover everything, and then we can talk about each one, because there are poses that they recommend. I gave that long list of 12 that I don't expect you to remember, but it was basically like side stretches, hip openers, the cat-cow, and then of course standing poses will be safe, and we'll add some standing poses into our part 2. We're going to do a few rounds of our video. We're going to do just the level 1 basics, and then we're going to come back and do like a level 2 basics, if that makes any sense, and then add some more poses that can be more of the dynamic strengthening versus just a restorative. And then the things that are most important, that are easy to do in the swing, is overstretch. And women in general who tend to be really limber tend to overstretch their joints. And I was one of those people. So I always emphasize engagement. And so we can be engaged and relaxed in these poses. So we're not creating so much tension that it's stress in the body, but we're engaged. So we're pulling the joints back towards the center line and really having more muscle activation around the joints so that they don't get too loose, because we don't want to really overstretch the attachments, right? We want to make sure that the muscles are getting a nice stretch, but at the same time, the joints are going to be plugged in, I call it, plugged in and closer to the center line is usually how I see it. So most people also, if your shoulders tend to ride up to the ears, we're going to learn how to engage the shoulders down the back so the wings are sitting on the back so we can still help with the posture. One of the things, particularly with new mamas, is they tend to round in, especially when they're breastfeeding. So we're going to work with the posture and the alignment in all of these poses like we do with the aerial yoga play program traditionally. But we already talked about twists, and that makes perfect sense. We're not going to do any real big cardio or jumps here, but of course that is recommended to avoid. And we're going to keep the tempo at about half pace. So we don't really want to lose our breath or get so our heart rate's so high that we actually start to lose our breath. So we'll bring it back to the breath and we'll slow it down, because this is going to be kind of more of the Shanti practice, right? Really slow, like that kind of low flow is what we're going for. And by the way, this, even though this is really geared towards prenatal, this could be used by anybody who just wants to do a more yin practice, who really likes the idea of being lower to the ground, maybe because of injury. Also, sometimes my friends that are overweight that feel too much pressure under the arms and they don't like it, you can bring the swing down. So it's actually going to be fun to play with these variations, and notice that it's actually supportive for everyone. And then we,
as for the breath part and for the slowing down the pace, I've heard that you should be able to still have a conversation and not be like,
yes.
So if you can still have a conversation, then you know that you're kind of keeping it in the range where it's a good level.
That is a good cue, and we'll keep talking to one another and make sure that we stay there. So we talked about inversions, and we actually are going to do a really low inversion on the ground as well as a version of headstand, and it's up to you to decide if you want to do that. Now, back bending is a little tricky because the back bends that we do are not traditional back bends, like a full wheel, you know, in yoga. So I am going to show you some very gentle back bends. It's really up to you how far you want to take those. We're going to keep it mostly upper thoracic spine that we initiate our back bends from. So we're never really overarching the lumbar spine, which then could overstretch the belly. So yeah, we're gonna play with these variations as we go along, and then we're gonna do really gentle abdominal work, because we found a lot of conflictual information, or maybe some things that are confusing about what to do and what not to do. And again, it's really up to your personal practice, the conversations that you have with your midwife or your doula and your holistic health doctor. What they recommend for you and your body. I would really suggest getting that recommendation before you start any new practice. And then, of course, lying on your belly or lying on your back, they tend just to say to avoid once you get past your second trimester, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely third trimester, just because it's so uncomfortable, but you're just going to notice with the swing supporting you, we don't really lay on our bellies anyhow because we're in the air. But you'll notice that cocooning just feels so good, and it's great preparation for labor as well, you know, with the sumo squats and everything too. And is there anything about the trimesters that you would also like to talk about? Because there are some specific information about the different trimesters. First trimester, they basically say to do nothing, right?
Well, in first trimester, you definitely have a lot of nausea, you know, so you have to watch even just like the slight swaying, you know, might be too much for us. I mean, number one, no matter what trimester you're in, is just really pay attention to your body. You know, we can break it down in trimesters, but it really is a per person experience of how much yoga you've done, how many inversions you've done, if this is a brand new tool for you, if you've been doing it for years. Of course, like you just already touched upon, you know, once you are getting bigger, there's certain things that just won't feel as good in your body.
Exactly.
But when you're really small and you don't even have a little bump yet, then there are some things that you can still do on your belly with no problem, you know. And then as you get bigger, you're just going to naturally know that maybe this isn't for me anymore. So throughout your different trimesters, you're going to just get different hits of, you know, intuition around what is good for me to do now and what is good for me to do later, you know. And then of course, once you get to a point where you're further along and you're about to give birth, you know, some people have opinions around whether or not you should be going upside down anymore, depending upon the positioning of your
after
baby.
36 weeks, which is pretty far along. I mean, it's nine months. After 9 months, you know, lay off the headstands. Who knows that you really even feel like it? But you're really good. I think the best time to really give this a go with the swing, and that was all really wonderful. Like the second trimester is kind of the most comfortable and the safest.
Absolutely.
When you're in doubt. The first trimester, they're just like, you know, you're not really feeling up for it, is what they have said in a lot of articles, where said don't overstretch, and like the baby's trying to lodge itself in, so don't do anything crazy. It just depends on if you have a really strong personal practice, then the swing wouldn't really affect it much, you know, besides of course avoiding pressure specifically directly on the abdomen. And then in the last trimester, at the end of the last trimester, I mean, it's just the same thing. Slow it down, take it down, take it all down to the ground, have it be really restorative. Like even the standing poses, getting your leg up and stuff in your third trimester probably won't be very comfortable. So if you're later in your pregnancy and we're doing some things and you're just laughing because you're like, yeah, there's no way I'm swinging my leg up there. Yeah. Like just know you can always bring the swing down, and I really encourage you to make adjustments and variations that work for your body.
I mean, yeah, even I'm in my second trimester, so I'm 23 weeks pregnant. So even simple things like giving myself a little pedicure and like trying to get my foot up on the sink and, you know, tying your shoes, and just, you know, you start to notice like, okay, that's not so easy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to make this training as easy on you as possible. And for my other teachers who've already been certified and that want to share the swing with prenatal, we're just going to have lots of conversations in the poses like, oh, this feels comfortable, this doesn't. I'm going to go a lot faster through the sequences, which means we're not going to stay for 5 minutes in sumo. We might stay for 1 or 2 minutes and move on. So that's also my, I've never been pregnant, but my intuition about how to make adjustments. Don't hold the poses for as long. Yeah. Take frequent breaks and then mix it up, right? So it's like, okay, the body has had enough of that one. Let's try something else. We have enough of a variety pack that we can really make this interesting and beneficial without any strain. And that's what we're going for. We're going for easy.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think we're ready. So we're going to just bookmark the videos and index them so you can go back and review them with ease. So we'll be right back with our Yoga Translations #1 with our sumo squats. Thank you so much.